starting with Kirti, tell us briefly about your signature dish, one that conveys on the plate what you stand for as a cook. And what does this dish say about you?
Okay, so we have this rice flake sea bass, which is served with a kokum sauce. What I'm using is a New Zealand blue nose sea bass, and I crust it with a pressed rice crust, and I sear it and bake it in the oven, and I serve it with braising greens and a kokum sauce. So kokum it's a berry in India. It belongs to the mangosteen family, and it gives a very sour and fruity flavor to the sauce. And we use the skin of that berry. We soak it, and we sometimes we also make a appetizer drink out of that berry. So that lends a characteristic flavor to the sauce. So when I do this dish, what actually happens is that usually in Indian restaurants, in the traditional Indian restaurants, all the meats, they are cooked in the sauce, and they are not cooked as per the temperature. Or even if you're using fish, you would cook it with the sauce together and serve it in vats filled with curry or with sauce. Whereas here, what I'm doing is I'm presenting the sauce as a little bit of a sauce on the bed, and I'm putting the chunk of the fish. My focus is on the fish, in the beautiful New Zealand blue nose sea bass. I'm focusing on the quantity of protein that I'm putting on the plate. It's not like the sauce is more than the protein. So it's like the sauce is accompanying the protein, but at the same time, this dish is made in Kerala, and it's made by a lot of fishermen who catch the fish on the boat, and when they come to the shore, they make it right away using this kokum berries and mustard seeds and curry leaves, coconut milk. So they make this nice sauce, and they cook the fish in that sauce. So I'm retaining the authenticity, the flavors, the taste of the sauce, but I'm still able to present it in a modern manner. I'm marrying it with New Zealand blue nose sea bass, which is a nice buttery fish, and I'm giving it the texture which is so often missing in traditional Indian food. They don't relate to it as a protein with a sauce, with some texture, with the proper cooking temperature where the fish is not dried, and it's still moist. It's seared only on one side. It's finished, baked in the oven, and it's not actually tossed, fried, or tossed in the sauce. So what it says about me is that I still respect traditional values, but I'm still open-minded to be in step with the times and to be able to present myself in a contemporary and modern manner, but still retain the traditional and the taste and the flavors which are in the traditional cooking.
It's interesting you should say that, because I remember distinctly that my sister had lamb.
The lamb chops?
It wasn't the chop, but it was in a sauce. And the first thing she said was, "The lamb is so tender. It's cooked perfectly. Linda, taste this." And it was. I mean, so even the more traditional dish, lamb sag?
Yeah.
Or lamb paneer?
It was. I think, we have the lamb chops and the veal sag that we have.
Okay. Very well put. Thank you very much.
Can I just interject one thing? He talked about rice flakes, and I imagine some people know, but a lot of people don't. It's one of the most amazing ingredients. They're individual grains of rice that are flattened. How are they flattened? Do you know?
They are parboiled rice which have been pressed flat and they have been dried.
It's an incredible crust. So what I do, and this is sort of my thing with it, I put it in a small spice grinder, and I make this fine powder out of it. And when you put that on, say, a piece of fish, like he said, it makes the most amazing crust. It becomes the crispiest. I mean, people talk about panko. I mean, it is like, panko squared as far as how crispy it gets. I just wanted to mention this is a really, really valuable ingredient for you guys to know about.
I think I'm going to take some notes for the symposium in October. Can we do tasting? Okay, good. Eric, how about a signature dish for you?
Oh God, my food is all about home cooking. It's not restaurant cooking. So I'm all about the simplicity, and then try to just simplify it some more. And I suppose one of my signature dishes would be something as simple as to take a small amount of matcha, which is the highly finely powdered Japanese green tea that you often see in ceremonies. They take a bamboo whisk and they foam it up and you drink it. It's this very bitter, sort of hallucinogenic green brew. And they take it with some sweets, like it's usually just pure sugar cubes, essentially. And you need the sugar cubes to kind of cut the bitterness of the tea. But what I like to do with the matcha is to take about, I don't know, half a teaspoon of it in a spice grinder with about a couple of tablespoons of salt. I like to use sel gris with that. And if you just give it a couple of pulses, you get this wonderful green salt that is really an incredible ingredient. And I found that by sprinkling a little bit of this on poached eggs, the union of the green tea with the yolk of the egg produces this sort of heady celestial thing that it's that simple, right? So that would be a kind of signature dish of mine, I suppose. Another one, it's slightly more complicated, but not much more, would be I cook with a lot of tofu, and I love the Japanese tofu that's really soft. They call it oburo tofu, and it's not at all like the extra firm stuff. It's almost liquid. It's that soft, and if you just take some of that and put it in a bowl. And I like to take whatever fruit is in season, like fresh figs are especially good with this dish. But if you combine fresh figs with a little bit of olive oil and some pickled ginger, and I could talk about the pickled ginger too. I like to make that in very easy ways. So it's pickled ginger, olive oil, a little bit of salt, and seasonal fruit. And then you just sort of top the tofu with that and some fresh chives on top and maybe a little dusting of salt. And you have this really beautiful fruity tofu dish.
Wow, that sounds delicious. Thank you. Michelle.
I don't know if I really have a signature dish so much. When I was cooking at Ponzu, I did have a spicy tuna tartare that people really enjoyed, and they wouldn't let me really take that off the menu. But it was, ahi tuna and tossed with some sambal olek and sesame oil and salt, and then served over an avocado puree and ginger-ponzu sauce.
For anybody who might not know, would you just tell us what ponzu is?
Ponzu is a Japanese dipping sauce, citrus soy dipping sauce.